back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 840 videos, digital magazines, all for free, and a whole lot more to help you be a better gardener.
So Jenny Peterson is a breast cancer survivor. Her long road through cancer treatment was hard, emotional, and often deeply depressing. The one thing that pulled her out of the darkness was her desire to be able to garden again. Jenny has a 1-acre lot on the city limits of Austin, Texas, where she gardens, raises 40 chickens, 7 goats, and a potbelly pig. She is the author of the Cancer Survivor's Garden Companion, Cultivating Hope, Healing, and Joy in the Ground Beneath Your Feet. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Holly. Good morning to both you and Joey.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us on the program and share a little bit of your story with our listeners who may be going through some of the same events that you had went through in your life.
You know, if people don't have or haven't had cancer themselves, almost everybody knows who's had cancer, been diagnosed with it. And so I just found that, you know, sharing my own experience with this disease has really been helpful, not only to me, but to so many other people that have read the book and then have this conversation with me. So I'm really happy to be here on your show to do this with you guys.
Well, Jenny, you've got a 1-acre plot. You got a lot of chickens, goats, potbelly pig, and gardening. And gardens. How did you get into gardening? Was this something that your parents did, or was this something you found later on in life?
My parents were gardeners, but they really focused on like very specific things. Like my father was into only growing tomatoes. He only did tomatoes. That was the only edible thing that he did. And then he had this beautiful lawn. And I grew up mostly in San Antonio, Texas. And then the front yard was really pretty, and our house was always the one that got the Yard of the Month award. I don't know if your area has that, but we were the house that always got that. And then my mother was into roses later in her life and a few herbs. And so I was raised in a gardening family, but I really didn't start gardening myself until I was a young mother. And so it's like my late 20s. And then I just started with this big vegetable garden that was actually a little bit too ambitious for my first time out. And it kind of, I was the size of loofahs. And, just learned by doing things the hard way. So, but, once you get that bug, you don't stop. Gardening is just so much fun, and it's healthy, too.
A good addiction to have.
It is.
So you say it's important to get outside for 10 minutes a day to clear your mind. Where did you come up with this idea, and why is it important?
Well, I would say 10 minutes is, for me, it's sort of that magical sweet spot where even, if you're inside and you're not feeling well, we've all had times like that, whether you have cancer or don't have cancer. There's times when you just don't feel well and you're inside, you're laying on the couch, you're watching TV, and the last thing you want to do is go outside, right? It's hard to get that motivation sometimes. But if you are really stuck in the house and not feeling well, I guarantee you, if you go outside just for 10 minutes, so we say, even if it's just 10 minutes, I'll take that. But I almost can guarantee if someone goes outside for 10 minutes and is in the sunshine and feels the breeze on their face and hears the birds chirping and sees the flowers, the garden just draws you out further. And so if you can stay out there for 10 minutes, you're going to be out there for longer. I can almost guarantee it. But there's just something that happens where the garden it's almost like the garden is putting its arms around you and is saying, you're going to be okay. We've been around for a lot longer than you have, Jenny Peterson, the plants and gardens and the natural world, and it's going to be okay. So that's why I say 10 minutes, just give it 10 minutes when you go outside. And I guarantee you, your mood will turn and you will want to be out there a little bit longer.
Well, for many of our listeners, they may have known somebody or have had this diagnosis upon them. Holly and I have no idea what this might have felt like, but maybe you can share a little bit with us. How did you find out you had breast cancer, and what was that initial thought that first went through your mind when the doctor said, "Here, Jenny, this is what you've got"?
Well, it was back in 2012. So thankfully, though, the good part of the story is that I'm coming up on 5 years of being cancer-free. And actually, they don't say you're cancer-free until 5 years. I don't know if you knew that. So the first 5 years, you're in what they call remission. But in May of this year, I will hit my magic 5-year mark so that I will be told I'm cancer-free. So it was back in May of 2012. I had actually just gotten engaged about 3 weeks prior, maybe 4 weeks prior. And I noticed some changes in one of my breasts that I was not comfortable with, that I knew, if you do your own breast self-exam and you are just familiar with what your body should look like, how it should feel, you are going to be a little bit more in tune to, even some subtle changes. And I knew that what I was seeing was not normal. So that was on a Sunday. I called literally Monday morning. I went in on Tuesday for a diagnostic mammogram. And then it took about 2 weeks to get the diagnosis. It takes longer than people think because they have to, get you in for biopsies and whatnot. So when my doctor called and said, it was a Friday afternoon, and we knew that we were going to be getting the call that afternoon that, yes or no, you have it or you don't have it. And so my then fiance, we're married now, but Brett stayed home that day knowing I was getting that phone call. And really, you guys, it was just a confirmation of what I knew, because what I was experiencing in my body I knew was not normal, and it was not healthy. So I was sure that I had breast cancer. So when I got that phone call that Friday afternoon, it was just a confirmation of what I already knew. And I did the crying for about an hour, but then here's what I did. We called our friends from across the street over to have happy hour by the garden, because I thought I don't want to stay inside and cry. I mean, this is going to be a long road for me, so I've got to figure out a way to deal with it. And so it's scary. It's very scary. You never think that you're going to be the one that's going to hear those words, but, you just surround yourself with your good family and friends, and spend some time in the garden and keep yourself active and your mind healthy, and you can get through it.
Absolutely. And 5 years, not everybody's story is as successful or as blessing as yours
Right.
is. But it brings to note that, our listeners and people who are listening to this on podcast replay, video replay, it's important to do those steps, take those checks, do those breast exams.
Absolutely.
Because that's how you were able to, if you would have just said, oh, it's just one of them things, you might not be talking to us today.
That's exactly right. Because, another thing I learned is that there's not just one type of breast cancer. There's up to 16 different types, very specific types of breast cancers, and some are much more aggressive than others. And I actually had a type that is very treatable. Others are less treatable. So I was very fortunate on that count. But the quicker you can find it, that's often the better. Some breast cancers want to spread and grow no matter what, but I was lucky. I got mine. I got a kind that is very treatable, and I caught it early. So yes, everybody do your self exams and stay up on your doctor's appointments every year. They're really, really important.
Absolutely. So when you decided to write your book, what was your aha moment where you were like, I'm going to write this book so I can, spread information to other people? And what was the inspiration behind your book?
Okay, so, I was diagnosed in 2012, and I spent the rest of that year going through 2 surgeries, 4 chemotherapies, and 6 weeks of daily radiation, and I got done literally the day before New Year's Eve. And so it took 2013 and 14 to really kind of rebuild my immune system and my, just get my body and my mind back to being healthy again. And it was during that time I messaged my publisher and I said, hey, I think I want to write a book about how healing and restorative the garden is. There are a lot of books out there that talk about that in a very more of a clinical sense, like for hospitals and nursing homes and treatment centers, for them to have gardens that are healing, but not so much home gardeners. So I really wanted to write that book. And so very wisely, my publisher, Paul Kelly of St. Lynn's Press, said, what if we really make this book more specific to your cancer survivorship? You have gone through this experience, and would you be comfortable sharing that and being very open with it in this book? And he said, I really even want the word cancer survivor in the title of the book. And I thought about it for about a day, just because I I think any good idea should be, even if you think immediately, yes, that's what I want to do, you should really just give it some time and think about it. And I thought, I'm pretty much, no pun intended, but I am pretty much an open book when it comes to, my cancer experience, because I think that's what is helpful to me when people talk to me about their experience. That really helped me when I was going through it. So I want to be a part of that for somebody else as well, or at least give them that opportunity. So when my publisher said, let's really tighten this and make it to about, using your garden to heal when you're going through a really difficult time like cancer. And I'm so glad he made that recommendation, because it was a brilliant move, and people have really responded to it.
Well, Jenny, this is not your first book that you've wrote, but one of your most, I'll say it's the most powerful book that you've wrote. Where can people find the book, The Cancer Survivor Garden Companion book, as well as the other books that you've wrote?
Well, both the Cancer Survivor's Garden Companion and then my first book was called Indoor Plant Decor, the Design Style Book for Houseplants. And so both of them are available on Amazon. So you just do a quick search there. You can go to my blog, JennyNybroPeterson.com. You can buy a copy there, and then I can actually autograph it for you and send it. But then also just look at like Barnes & Noble, a lot of the garden centers are carrying the books, both of the books, and then just independent bookstores wherever you are. So, and if they don't have it when you go in, just ask for it, and most bookstores would be happy to get that for you if you ask for it.
Well, Jenny, so thankful that you've taken time out of your busy day to share your story and the happy ending that your story has for us as well as our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, both of you, Joey and Holly. It was just a real pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you for being here, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you're in the Milwaukee or surrounding areas, just tune your radio to 860 AM or FM 106.5. You can also find links on our Facebook pages, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and Home Canning. Our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the radio tab at the top of the page, then click on the Listen Live button, and you'll have immediately access to our live program. Mobile devices work very well. Also, go to your app store and download for free the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app. Then search WNOV 860, save it to your favorites, and you can have access to our radio show live wherever you're at in the world. Our radio program will also have podcast replay under the radio tab several days following the live broadcast. You can find all of these links in the show notes below. Our show airs 9 to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday, March through the end of October. And we want to thank our sponsors, because without them, this would not be anywhere possible. You can find all of their links under the radio tab on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.